See, I'm conflicted and maybe even a little confused off the top here. Cardinals Underground brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. How can I, polyparental unit, tell the teenagers to stay off social media, especially in the month of July when it's smoking hot in the AZ? And now we're going to spend the next episode here talking about what? Social media.
To be fair, this was social media that never actually happened.
Even better.
So
more social media.
It's pretend. It's pretend.
It's wishing there was more social media. Danny Sarek, is that correct?
In a sense,
Okay.
kind of.
I mean, we're talking about in the past.
Okay. So we're framing sports and Cardinals history.
And some other history.
Okay. In the context of what if only there was social media when this happened. And then we're going to fill in the blank and then speculate accordingly.
I mean, the range we discussed of was like 1988 to 2009 range.
Ish, yeah.
Things that happened that social media was either not around for or not nearly as big and popular as it is now. And what events do we think could have been amplified in one way or another if social media had been around?
Yes. And we picked 1988 because that's when the Cardinals moved to Arizona. So that seemed like a good start date. We're not going to start talking about, hey, what if social media had been around in 1947 when the Cardinals won the championship?
Charlie Trippy.
We're not.
How many clicks would Charlie Trippy
We're
get?
not doing that. So like, and it's a little bit of I mean, we asked Danny to really stretch here because she wasn't around for part of that time frame.
My older sister wasn't around for part of that time frame.
Point well taken. All righty.
Son of a biscuit.
All right. Here we go. Miss 18 to 34 demo. Why don't you
you.
bat lead off since this is your concept anyway? We'll start with a Cardinals event that we wish or, would have been featured in social media. What if?
I actually learned this from a Cardinals folktales that we put out within the last couple of years.
They're all on YouTube. Go watch them.
To September 7th, 1997. Do you know where I'm going with this, Paul? I know you still probably haven't started prepping for Wise Guy, so that's okay.
September 7, 97. That was
he was actually in that folktales quite a bit.
And actually, I covered this game. It was Jake Plummer and company, and it was the season opener. And help me out from there.
Okay. Cardinals beat the Cowboys 25-22 at Sun Devil Stadium after 13 consecutive losses to the Cowboys. But what I wish social media would have been around for at that time would have been when the fans took down the goalposts and took that to Mill Ave, because we don't see this often. And when we see it now, it's mostly in college football.
Yes.
It is incredible. Now, if you're driving a car, you're walking in some sense, I'd imagine it's absolutely horrible. How are you supposed to get around when you've got thousands of people surrounding you and these goalposts that are social media, though, it is riveting when you're seeing all the different angles and people are putting the photos, they're juxtaposing it on other things, and people get really creative. That, to me, is something so fun that even if you want to be a bit of like a fun sucker, you can still understand the fun behind tearing down goalposts after a huge win for your team, storming the field, and then taking them out to the city.
I mean, that's the thing is, if social media had been around, you're assuming the camera phones will have been out there.
Yep.
And you know that everybody would have been filming that whole thing.
Someone would have been live streaming down on the
field. We would have had
had
video all the way down Mill Avenue, and that would be crazy. Like, again, this is one of the things we liked about this exercise is it wasn't necessarily a whole game, but that small window of like the goalpost coming down and going down the street, that would have been crazy. I didn't even think of that.
I'm going to assume neither of you participated in that.
No, that was before my Cardinals time, believe it or not.
I wish I was down in that field working at Channel 5, and boom, we're on the field and it's chaos and they win and we're interviewing players. Back in the day, you could do that. You could actually bum rush guys, especially after a win. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, head on a swivel. There goes the goalpost out the far end of the stadium, and we had two photographers, and one tried to chase it down, And I'm trying to remember how much video they got. They did get a little bit of video of it going down Mill Avenue and then ultimately ended up in the dry riverbed in the Salt River. And so it was either Ricky Bogrand or Jim Escobedo. Shout out to one of you two guys because somebody chased that down back in the day.
That's fantastic.
With a big beta cam on their shoulder
I was
that weighed
gonna
about
say,
50 pounds.
These days, Paul would have just put in his speed, his safety speed, and chased it down with his own phone.
Okay. That begs for a segue. Darren, what do you have here?
So I happen to be part of this. Now, I when it first happened, it probably wouldn't have been on social media, but the conversation around it absolutely would have been, which is the day that Dave McGinnis told myself and Kent Summers and Mike Jurecki, pulled us into a back room and said, Pat Tillman isn't going to resign here because he's joining the Army. And I think to myself, and there was obviously multiple times where we could talk about Pat Tillman's story being ended up on social media, but I'm going to choose this one, which was the positive one where he decided to join the military. But holy cow.
Yeah.
Like when we were hearing this, I unfortunately worked for a newspaper at the time that was not on the internet. It didn't have a website. So I literally couldn't get the news out there until the next morning.
Wow.
The Republic was in the baby stages of a website, and Mike Jurecki could go right on the radio. So I was a little behind, but still it was a huge story. And I just keep thinking to myself, as soon as we're done racing to our Twitters and like being able to say this, and who knows, because if social media had been a thing, maybe Dave McGinnis isn't pulling us in. It's the Arizona Cardinals official account announcing that he's going in so it might have played out differently, but I just imagine the reaction on so many different levels of what people would be saying about a NFL football player turning down a 3-year contract for significant money at the time to join the Army.
Yeah, you can go on YouTube and find Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings and all the news anchors of the day. It led the network news.
Yeah.
It was a certified mind blow that Pat Tillman was going to join the Army and pursue a spot on the Rangers.
Dave McGinnis told us, and the next words out of his mouth after he said he's joined the Army was, Darren, you can close your mouth now, because my jaw literally dropped. My mouth was open.
Wow. Well, speaking of Tillman, I will go. Mine would be the 98 playoff win at Dallas.
That's a good one.
Just the before and after. The Cardinals leaving Sky Harbor, and there's 500 fans out there. The Cardinals returning to Sky Harbor in the middle of the night, 5,000 fans waiting for the team plane Redbird 1 to land. The video we could have obtained of all the Cowboys fans filing out of the stadium, out of Texas Stadium late in the fourth quarter, and then all the Bird Gang behind the Cardinals bench, as if they had planted the flag and taken over the stadium.
And what you're talking about is multi-leveled, because if there was social media, we certainly know that half the conversation would have been beating down the Cowboys for losing to the lowly Cardinals in the playoffs, and Troy Aikman and Deion Sanders and et cetera. Like, what happened there? How did you let that happen?
Yep. I mean, there would have been, for example, locker room video of a beaming Mr. B with the game ball. Because Vince Tobin awarded him the game ball for the Cardinals' first playoff win in nearly a half century. And just this smile on his face when the media was allowed in, and he was standing there and just looking, sort of like a proud parent at the entire locker room. There was the jubilation of young guys like Jake Plummer who knew how to celebrate a win. And then there was still the intensity on the face of a Pat Tillman talking about that. I mean, it was his rookie year, and he was already, one of the heartbeats of that team, not unlike a Tyrann Mathieu as a rookie.
Yeah.
He was that kind of guy. So, yeah, that would have played real well on social media.
I'm sure even just locker room footage post-game of speeches and everything like that.
Again, I think what we've all hit on here is the social media component of it's not necessarily something that happens directly on the field that really resonates with social media.
Yep.
So.
All right, how about a sports event, non-football, non-Cardinals, that you think would have played real well?
Ooh, I had some trouble deciding on one here. I am keeping us in the year 1997. We are changing sports. Game 5, it is tied 2-2. The very famous Michael Jordan flu game. 38 points.
That's a good
They
one.
beat Utah, solidified his clutchness. I can only imagine the photos that we have from that. I mean, if you had seen all of that in real time, I will say that is a good example, though, of something I love, which is when you go back and you see video footage or photos and you look in the stands and there's not a cell phone in sight because people didn't have cell phones. And so everybody, their undivided attention is on the moment and what is happening in front of them. And I understand nowadays you want to capture your own content, right? You want to save that. There's something just so different and so special about savoring the moment, being present with the people near you and whether or not you know them and just enjoying that together. And that is just a great example of all of that. Would that be great for social media? Heck yeah. That is something that came to mind. Just the clutchness.
And again, when we're talking about levels, how much discussion Jordan haters, because there would have been Jordan haters, because just like LeBron, there would have been haters.
They would have had the outlet to hate.
How many people were going to be talking about, I'm the one who spit in his pizza, or it wasn't really the flu?
We don't need to talk about Skip Bayless around here, Darren. You don't need to bring him up, okay?
I like that idea.
All right, what about yours? A sports event, non-Cardinals.
I'm going to go with a somewhat obvious one that hits local, but definitely has national reach. Luis Gonzalez's 2001 game winner.
Sure.
You're beating the Yankees, so it's a national brand. It's the World Series Game 7, so it's a national brand. We're a month out, 2 months out by then, of 9/11. There was so much emotion tied up into that World Series.
BK Gim has given up a couple of ninth-inning leads.
First of all, that whole World Series would have lived on social media in terms of virality, but the hit itself to win the game, again, people would be talking about, oh, wait, the greatest relief pitcher in the history of the game choked or whatever, and mad Yankees fans. And there's so much that plays into that one moment that would work on the video. And then there's tentacles to it, to all these other social things that could have come out of that moment that I think would have been fascinating. And again, that was a moment just like the flu game. There's enough out there that it still lives well enough. There's some things that you could talk about we've missed socially, because it would have been awesome to have people filming it, because there just isn't enough. The goalpost coming down, that would have been cool to have on social, because there's not a lot there. But these all the things, there's enough video out there that you can piece it together now, but still to see people reacting in the moment would have been cool.
I do think that's part of the reason why The Last Dance, when did that come out? 2020, 2021?
Yeah, during the pandemic. So
I think that's why everybody was so hooked on it, was because it to a certain degree, there is limited footage. You don't have thousands and thousands of people who have their own angles and can provide their own take. That's why everybody was so drawn in, was because you were limited to what you could see from what was going on back then.
All right, I'll go with baseball for mine, and I don't even need to look it up. October 17th, 1989, 5:04 p.m., the A's and Giants World Series, the earthquake game.
I thought about that one.
And yours truly was in the Bay Area, was in college. I was actually in a Safeway, and I put Express into Express Lane when the aisle I was in came down. And it was a jarred good aisle, because I was cooking for my 3 roommates in college. Don't tell Nona Calvisi I was buying jarred sauce. And I was going to make pasta that night, and all of a sudden, down came the aisle, and I ran a 4.240 straight out, and everything, lights went out, stuff crashing down, people screaming, and we knew it was bad. I had no idea how bad it was, though, because there was really no such thing as, heck, there wasn't even the internet at that point, was there?
No.
So you're relying, I go back to our place, total dump, and I turn on the TV, and it's snow, next channel snow, next channel snow. Finally, there's one channel that's on the air, auxiliary lighting in a newsroom, and it's the CBS affiliate, and their chopper was in the air for traffic, and so they actually still had a link. And then that's when you saw the iconic shot of the Bay Bridge, and it's down, and that's when you realize how bad it was. All the phone service was down. It was epicenter about 5 miles from my parents' house in Santa Cruz. Couldn't get a hold of them for 3 hours. No idea. No idea. And so anyway, that's the one I'll go with. And without social media, the entire world basically was relying on Al Michaels, who did a phenomenal job anchoring all the news coverage from the TV booth. And one of his competitive advantages was the fact he used to be the Giants announcer. So he knew the Bay Area like the back of his hand. Anyway, he ended up getting an Emmy for that, for live news coverage.
And he deserved it.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And to have it tied around a sporting event, crazy.
Okay, so there we go. Now, let's see. Non-sports is the next category.
You guys are not beating me here.
If only social media existed. Danny,
This is why we came up with the idea, right?
Just so you know, the conception of this podcast episode, I was in the back room and I was just blabbing away to Darren, and I said this like out of nowhere, and he looks at me and goes, "Oh, that's a great podcast episode idea." It is still semi-sports related. 1994. Anything bigger than the 2-hour police chase with O.J. Simpson? I don't think so.
No, you're absolutely right.
I mean, and I don't bring this up as it would be funny on social media. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful of
there would have been
families,
some memes, though.
Right? I'm not saying it in that sense, but just, again, the footage of if you're sitting in your car on the highway and you're live streaming or taking videos or whatever that might be, I think the coverage would have been insane.
The coverage was insane, and we didn't have social media.
And
that's the thing.
Like, it just a former Heisman winner, everyone would have been out of their minds.
And just his notoriety. I mean, he was a national broadcaster. So was that viral without social media?
I think it was.
It really was.
I think it was.
It might have been the really first legitimate viral video instance without social media.
What you would have had is just a lot more commentary with what was already going on, because all the news stations were showing it anyways, but you would have had everybody piling on. You would have had definitely some absolutely inappropriate people piling on. But I think, because we lived through it, obviously. I was on a date bowling with my wife-to-be in Flagstaff, Arizona that night. I think that the amount was crazy anyways, and to think if social media was in it. And what you're not including in there is when that was going down, there was also an NBA Finals game going on at the same time. That's the other thing that social really would have run with.
Sure. Yep.
So that's always a good one. Unfortunately, some of these moments are not the best, and I like how you picked that as opposed to something else attached to that. But the slow speed chase. I mean, Rob Perez, the NBA tweet guy, who also does all the birds in the air live streaming of. If he finds out there's especially in California, there's a police chase, he puts it on, he streams it on that. Those are just normal ones. I can't imagine what he'd do with OJ.
All right, what do you have, Darren?
I am also going with 1994. Hell of a year, 1994.
Hey, that's when I was born. Damn straight, Darren.
You barely missed some stuff. How about Nancy Kerrigan getting her knee bashed in before the Olympics?
That's a good one.
Tanya Harding, sure.
I mean, I can't, and again, partially how it plays out, because you would have had the original thing, which the video existed of the why right after it happened, but you'd have the original thing, you'd have everybody tweeting about it, you'd have people trying to figure out, and then as it played out, I mean, I'm talking about the moment it happened, but as it played out, people tweeting about, and then the day Harding got connected to it, everybody would be like, what the heck's going on? And then even further down the road, when she's allowed to go skate anyways. I'm like, that whole thing, you can't write a crazier script than that.
I mean, I can't remember games I covered, but I remember Jeff Gillooly, right?
Gillooly!
He was the thug.
Hell yeah!
Oh, my gosh. That's...
All right, what's yours, Paulie?
Grunge music.
Oh, yeah.
Would have been good, but, just more from the perspective of grunge saved us from the hair bands.
Gotcha.
No more Cinderella and Whitesnake and, I don't know, Dawkins and Poison. I mean, America needed to change.
Those
America
are some good bands, I'm going to tell you.
Deserved to change, earned to change, and so grunge was there,
I thought you were going to go the very specific, because one of the ones I did consider was Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the one I would go with.
That's a big one.
The grunge music.
It would have been that changeover.
Although there is enough, if you go to YouTube and you can go down a rabbit hole, you can find a lot of good stuff. Early Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Nirvana from clubs back in the day. And it's crazy. I don't know.
Did you have long hair, Paul?
Yeah. Don't make me put on the flannel. Okay, here we go. Now we come back. We'll bookend it with a Cardinals event that would have played out really well or been prominent on social media.
This one, I'm hoping doesn't upset people listening because it still technically fits within the framework of what we are talking about. I'm taking us to the end of the timeline, February of 2009. I would actually love to see what the two of you looked like covering the Super Bowl for the Cardinals.
Wait, what was the year again? What was it?
It would have been January of 09.
09,
so,
okay.
Paul,
I don't look a whole lot different.
Oh, boy.
Probably would have had a little more hair.
Okay, let's move it
Paul,
along.
you had a little more hair on your face.
A little more of everything.
I would have loved to have seen the stress levels from Darren in the press box because I'm sure they were just astronomical.
Okay, you want to talk about stress levels? It's funny because in the NFC Championship game, the Cardinals, this is before teams were aligned with the NFL in terms of the hub of the servers for all the websites, which is what we are now. In those days, teams did their own thing with their websites. And right as the NFC Championship game ended, the azcardinals.com crashed and was out for into the next day.
Oh, I did not know that.
So none of my coverage from the NFC Championship game was able to be read. We would have had everybody was coming to our website,
right,
and it just crashed.
Danny, my famous story. Let's see if I can do this in 30 seconds or less. You want stress levels? Pash, Wolfley, and yours truly were on the last Cardinals bus over to the stadium from the hotel, and of course we're way in the back. And
this is Super Bowl, right?
This is Super Bowl Sunday.
Yep.
I've never, ever been on a bus ride anywhere close to the tension and anxiety and stress that was prominent on that bus. You could cut it with a knife, and everyone knew it. And the last guy on the bus, and I have no idea if this was by design, was Kurt Warner. And he walked on, and almost every guy was in a suit. Kurt was not. He was in like slacks and a shirt, sort of a Florida colorful shirt. Just gets on without a care in the world. How's it going, guys? How's it going? And everyone in that bus said, oh, yeah, our quarterback's been here. Our quarterback's done this. And the whole bus exhaled at once. I swear. Everyone exhaled and went,
that's a good story.
Okay. And that's the sort of leader he was that season for that team. Let's see. All right. And I'll go, speaking of those days, I'll go with the whole Denny Green meltdown, which was borderline viral as it was.
Oh, my God. That
But the Bears they played on a loop on SportsCenter and everything else where people consumed all their media. But can you imagine how long it would have taken for that to take so many different derivatives of the Denny Green and banging the podium? And then maybe I would have had video of, for those who don't know, his next stop when he exits through the door is to meet the hapless pencil neck radio guy who was on the other side of that door, yours truly. And then you want to talk about swallowing hard and stress level and doing a live in the moment post-game interview with a head coach who had just pounded the podium. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah,
my last one is also, everybody knows, but I just think it would have been fantastic to see socially, is McCown to Poole. The end of the 2003 season.
Yep.
The Cardinals on one play had a crazy play, number one, knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs, cost themselves the number one overall pick, although it ended up going number 3 and they got Larry Fitzgerald. And this is all in one thing. And when you combine the play itself, knocking a team out of the playoffs, and Paul Allen, the Minnesota Vikings play-by-play guy, having his call, which is famous, infamous, all of the above, I think that just would have that would have gone viral on about 7 levels.
Yeah.
I do have 2 quick notes. One, Paul, you were talking earlier, the Cardinals and Cowboys playoff game in 1998. My dad was there.
Oh,
so,
wow.
How about that?
Yep.
I also, I do have 2 honorable mentions that I really want to mention. I'm not going to go into depth about them because we already did that. I just want you guys to know what I really struggle with keeping and cutting out. Similar to the O.J. Simpson of not really sports, but still involving an athlete, one of my honorable mentions, 2009, the Tiger Woods cheating scandal. Again, not in the sense to make fun of what was going on. I just remember as a kid flipping through People magazine and seeing pictures of the car crash at 2:30 in the morning outside his house when Woods drove into the tree in the fire hydrant, and his wife at the time, Elin, was using the club, and she
sandwich.
she was breaking down the back window to get him out, and it was the timing of all of his official affairs that were coming out. That's something that was right before social media really getting big. Yeah. And the other, which I cut, was the 1997, this is kind of all the same name, 1997-98 range, which was the Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Oh, yeah. That would have been something.
That was honorable mention for me.
The one thing that a Cardinals one, I had a couple quick ones. I had, you mentioned Jordan, the flu game. I'm going a little bit earlier than that, but the Jordan over Craig Elo in '89 to beat him in the best of 5.
Sure.
That was really his first. He did have the 63-point playoff game against the Celtics, but they lost that series 3-1. That shot over the Cavs was really the first moment where Jordan really he had been great in the regular season. That was his first huge playoff moment, and obviously he just trended up from there. And then a Cardinals one. I know Larry Fitzgerald had an amazing playoffs in 2008, but I keep thinking to myself, as far as a game and the stage, the NFC Championship game, the Twitterverse going crazy over Larry Fitzgerald and the way he had played all through the playoffs, and then what he did to the Eagles in the NFC Championship game would have been off the charts. I mean, he would have been called a god about 72 times.
And there is video that exists of this, but the number of grown men and women who were crying in joy
the NFC Championship?
At State Farm Stadium, longtime Cardinals fans literally moved to tears, grown men and women, and no one left the stadium for an hour after the end of the game. Just the celebration and the confetti falling and the volume, still the loudest sporting event I've ever covered. Yeah.
Jim Omahundro, our fine producer, had a couple of throw-ins. We won't talk about these a lot, but we do want to mention them. The Dream Team, the basketball Dream Team in '92, that's a great one. The fall of the Berlin Wall in '89, I actually had that as my non-sports one for a while before I changed to the Kerrigan one. That's so huge, and it would have been international even.
The home run chase, McGuire and Sosa.
Yeah.
Even just McGuire's pregame batting practice sessions, which were epic. And he sent one at Chase Field out one of the panels. Out of the stadium, stuff like that. So
I think it's interesting. Omo included all these famous TV shows signing off. Cheers, Seinfeld, Friends. That would have been a viral moment too.
Yeah, I think people just sharing what they thought of the series finale.
Especially in those days when TV wasn't busted up like it is now, and it wasn't all streaming. Right. It was literally you're still on the 4 channels, and
also you couldn't pause, right? You had to start on time. You had to wait to go to the bathroom until commercial break.
You could tape it on your VCR and then fast forward through the commercials. You could.
What's the famous saying about the Seinfeld show? It's a show about nothing. All right, don't let that be said about this edition of Cardinals Underground.
I also do want to say, if we have sparked any sort of answers of your own, I do think that could be really cool.
Send them along to me and Danny and Paul, and we will talk about
social media.
them.
Darren's mailbag, he'll see them. Wherever. I think that could be a fun conversation.
Yeah, I mentioned something on YouTube.
Okay,
we'll be watching.
Okay, there you go. All right, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie, I was a little skeptical, but you guys brought it home. And once again, and this happens with regularity on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation, I am proven wrong.